Hi there. We'll be starting in about less than 5 minutes. Oh, crap. Hope you are having a good afternoon. Thank you those who are watching. I appreciate this, and I hope you enjoy my Facebook Live. Amazingly, for once I was able to pick it up on my iPad. So we'll be starting in just a minute. I need to turn down my iPad though. Once I was able to pick it up on my iPad. So we'll be starting in just a minute. The strange thing about using your iPad as a monitor is that it's a bit delayed. So it's really weird to say something and then hear it again just a few seconds later. So anyway, one more minute and then we'll be ready to go. It's a beautiful, well, it's been a kind of cloudy day and kind of cool here, but the sun is starting to burn through and it looks like it might be a nice afternoon. Our summer has finally started. These last 2 days have been cool, but it's starting to feel like summer. I was beginning to wonder if it ever would. But then June is generally a pretty cool month. Okay, well, let's get started. I am Sue, the Soggy Stamper, and I am happy to have you join me on Facebook Live this afternoon. I've been doing various techniques on Thursday afternoons, and then after I do the live video, Facebook Live, I've been loading them up onto my YouTube channel, the Soggy Stamper, so you can also catch them up there. Today I'm going to be doing heat embossing. This is the first technique that I learned. It's what really got me hooked on rubber stamping. I was in a fabric store and I had seen some stamps and some powder on the shelves and was wondering, what the heck are these all about? And the sales lady showed me how the powder melted when you put heat to it. I was hooked. It was like magic. Way back then, we didn't have heat tools, and so I would take and put my cardstock over the stock with the powder on it over the stove burner to get the heat source so it would melt. Now it's a whole lot easier with our heat tool. So this is the card we're going to make today using Good Morning Magnolia. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I'm going to turn the camera so you can see my work surface, and let's get started. There. Okay, so like I say, this is the card we're going to do. See, make sure it's, yeah, it should be right there. So we're going to do this card. You're going to need to do it the Good Morning Magnolia stamp set. It comes in 2 parts. It's quite a big set. So you get two boxes with the stamps in it. going to be using this stamp. We're going to be using this stamp. And then we're going to use this stamp. So we're going to be using several of them. So I'll set those aside. We also are going to be using, okay, Old Olive cardstock, 8.5 by 5.5 inches. This is the card base. And then a piece of purple, gosh, can't think of the name of it right now, but this is the lightest of the purple posy, I think it is. And this is the lightest color of purple that Stampin' Up! Has. This piece of cardstock is 5.25 by 4 inches, and it will be a layer like this. The other item that we need is watercolor paper. This is Fluid 100 watercolor paper. And that's why the watercolor paper will work much better. The other thing, the inks we're going to use are Versamark, and Memento Black. And then you also need a heat tool. Our heat tool has 2 levels. It has a 1, you can see, can you see the numbers there? 1 is for just drying things, and it's a cooler heat, and then number 2 is the hot one for doing this, for melting embossing powders. And one more thing, very important, Stampin' Up! Does not sell these anymore. They are called embossing buddies, but what it really is a bag with powder in it, and the purpose of it is to take any extraneous oils, absorb them off your cardstock, and to reduce static cling, because the embossing powder sticks, static cling will cause it to stick. We will be using gold embossing powder, and we're going to use 2 re-inkers, the Purple Posy and Pear Pizzazz, and a couple of water brushes and a clear block. So the first thing is to ink up your thing. I'm going to use my Stamparatus because this is a large stamp and I don't have a card. I don't have an acrylic block that's quite big enough. Well, at least the acrylic block is not out. So Versamark is an interesting ink. It's colorless, but it makes the paper change color, makes it a little darker, like a watermark would be. So ink up our stamp well, and then just press it down. Okay. And then I'm going to see, what's nice about it using the Stamparatus is that you can then lift your cardstock. Oh, does not look like I got any ink on it. We'll have to try that again. Actually, I'm going to move it down a little bit. And since I moved it, I'm going to turn my paper over. Okay, press it down very well. see if I can see it now. Try it one more time. It does not seem to be. Got plenty of ink on here. I'm not sure why it is not showing up. Well, I'm going to go for it anyway. Even if it's not working. Okay, so when you're using embossing powder, it's a good idea to have a spare piece of copy paper to catch the powder so it doesn't get all over. Oh yes. So the powder sticks to the Versamark because it's a sticky ink. So you can see it sticks to the thing. We'll dump the extra powder back. Oh, while I'm at it, I'm going to stamp this design on the bottom of the purple posy layer. Try to get it straight. I'll bring back in my scrap. Can you see the dark, how it's changed the color? So there's what we have. And now for the exciting part. Warm up my heat tool a little bit. Takes a few minutes for it to get hot. And I'll hold it kind of away from here so that it doesn't get too noisy for you. Got powder all over everywhere. Par for the course. Oh no. Okay. So and this is very hot, so you have to be careful. So you just focus the heat on till you can see it start to change color. I usually like to have the light shining on it so I can see it when it changes. And I just slowly move across. Can you see? You can overheat and actually drive the embossing powder down into the card, the fibers of the card itself. Okay, and we'll do this one. I see the spot here where I accidentally knocked the powder off. Not good, but oh well. Ouch, it's starting to get hot. So one of the things you can do if you're going to be embossing a small piece of cardstock is to use a clothespin or some sort of a clamp to hold your cardstock. And that protects your fingers. Don't, if you get too close to your cardstock, you'll end up maybe scorching the paper. And if you're too far away, it won't do much in the way of melting the powder. To me, this is just magic. There. This tip is plastic, and that it still gets warm, but it'll prevent you from getting burned with it. That's why it's there. So here's our embossed image. You can see the beautiful gold detail on it. Okay, so by itself, this is pretty. And you could cut it out and put it on the card. I could have done that without coloring it, without doing the coloring. However, I'm going to add some color. And this is really cool technique. You're going to need one drop. One drop is plenty. I'm just going to put a drop onto the block like that. And I'm going to put a drop of the old olive in another spot. Oh, the other thing you have to have is a spray bottle with water in it. And this is the reason why the watercolor paper works better than anything. It's because you're going to get it really wet so that you have water standing on it. Can you see the water that's on there? Okay. So you just put your brush into that drop of water and put it on, and look at the paint go. Look at that ink just spray out. You have to have enough water for it to actually pool. And I'm going to put a little more on because that's not as dark as I want. See if I can get this a little more purple. I think my brush, I had used this brush with the green when I made the sample, so that a little bit of that green got in there, so it looks a little gray. I thought I had the brush good and clean. A little bit more. There. Okay, and then we'll do the green. I tried doing this without the brush, just adding a drop. Well, if you used just a drop of the re-inker, I think you would get very, very dark color, and it wouldn't be nearly as effective. kind of running, so I'm going to blot some of it off. But it doesn't matter on this if it runs outside the lines, because I'm going to be cutting it out with the dies that go along with. Let's see if I can get this to go this way a little bit. Anyway, I think it's kind of cool the way the water runs. It's running the wrong way. It's supposed to go the other way. Well then. So then we need to let it dry a bit. Oh, and I've got to, so while that's drying, I'll emboss it. Oh, I did do it. I'll hurry this along a little bit with the, with the drying section, or setting of the heat tool, and that'll help to dry it a bit. So because this is watercolor paper, it didn't get all wrinkled like the other one did. It's a heavier paper, and it doesn't get crumpled up as much. Okay, and the stem, I'm just going to color with soft suede marker. Okay, now I'm going to go die cut it. I'm going to be using, these are the dies that go along with the Magnolia set, Magnolia Memory dies. I'm going to use this large one. These dies also have a really pretty border edge, but unfortunately it doesn't quite fit this flourish. So I'll be right back after I cut this out. So there we have it. And it's time to put our card together. Take the card base, and we'll take the layer. Nope, before we put it together, have to put the greeting on. If you notice, well, I shouldn't point this out to you, but this is kind of crooked. I'm not very good at stamping and eyeballing it and getting things straight. So I am going to use my Stamparatus. And I have already set up on another plate. Okay, plate, where are you? Here you are. Already have this set up. Thing I like about it, to get it straight, is, can you see the grid lines? It has grid lines, so you can actually place the stamp where you want it on your card, stamp side down. Oh, okay. That's where it's supposed to be. Okay, so anyway, you place it where you want it on your thing, pick it up with this plate. Then you can check it against the grid lines to see if you've got it straight. And I'm not sure. Okay. And I set that up earlier today so I wouldn't have to fuss with it while I'm doing Facebook Live. So stamp it. And what's really nice is, if you don't like how well it got inked, you can do it over again and stamp it a second time, because you've got your cardstock anchored down and this is on. So that looks pretty good to me. I think I got my embossing thing slightly crooked. And I'm going to take time to clean off that stamp. I like using the Stampin' Up's scrubber thing, but it's a little big for using on a surface like this. So I got this chamois from Walmart in the auto department part. Cut it into pieces and just keep it in a plastic container. And that works beautifully for this. Okay, done with that. Now we can put the card together. There it is. The new stamp and seal. Need to almost always get it started. Saw a tip where if you're having troubles getting it started, because it sometimes pulls off the edge, if you start first by putting it on a place where you've already done, it should start. However, let's try this. There we go. Reason we got rid of selling the snail adhesive and went to the Stampin' Seal is because in many locations where it's rather humid, the Stampin' Seal was not holding well. And so they went in search of a better adhesive to hold things together. Okay, we'll put this on. I'm going to use lots of Stampin' Dimensionals today because this is a pretty big piece. And for the stem, we have nice little mini Stampin' Dimensionals. So I'm going to put one to support the stem. Okay. Okay. There we have our finished card with the watercoloring technique and the beautiful gold embossing. So thank you very much for watching. This is the first of a series of embossing techniques that I'm going to show you. So this one is the first one with the heat embossing. Next I'll show you, well, you're familiar I think already with the dry embossing that we use the embossing folders for. I've used them before. Very easy to use. Used to be when you did dry embossing you had to use a light table and a stylus and a stencil, and you would rub through all the little lines. With our embossing folders now it's a whole lot faster. But I'll show you some other tricks that you can use for embossing. For instance, you can emboss with, you cut out from cardstock, you can cut out an image or a pattern and then emboss with that. So next will be some dry embossing techniques. Then we'll move into the embossing paste. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. My phone number is here, 907-401-0192. You can email me, sue@soggystamper.com. My blog is www.soggystamper.com, and I will be posting the item numbers and the technique on my blog tomorrow. And you can shop anytime, 24/7, by going to creationsbysue.stampinup.net. Thank you for watching. You have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.